ahead and start. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, welcome everyone. I'm John for the CAM program. I'm here to introduce Dr. Shane. Dr. Shane received his bachelor's degree in biology at Peking University, his master's degree on biochemistry at Harvard University, and doctor of medicine degree at Boston University School of Medicine. He received the Medical Acupuncture Research Foundation Award for publishing the first biological model on acupuncture, which is multiple independently confirmed predictions in both conventional biomedical sciences and acupuncture research. His publication on biology of acupuncture has been top ranked by Google. He is a former faculty member at Harvard Medical School and current faculty member at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, Baylor College of Medicine, and American College of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. He has done peer review for the New England Journal of Medicine, Annals of Internal Medical Medicine, and British Medical Journal by invitation. He is on the editorial board of Medical Acupuncture, World Journal of Acupuncture Moxibustion, and on the University Cooperation Working Committee of World Federation of Acupuncture Moxibustion Societies. Please welcome Dr. Shane.
Thank you, John, for the introduction. So, my topic, and also thank you, Professor Emery, for the invitation, and all of you for the opportunity for the discussion of this topic. I'll start with the outline of my Okay. So the outline of my talk is firstly, I'll briefly mention the Cochrane reviews regarding the clinical aspects of the acupuncture. And Professor Emery mentioned that you kind of gone through this already, so I'll just do this quickly. And then I'll focus on the biology regarding the biological the possibility of the acupuncture and its implications clinically and also on the conventional biomedicine as well. So acupuncture, as you know already, it's a treatment stimulating specific points in the body for therapeutic purposes. And the stimulation can be quite a variety, including mechanical, like needle and cupping, and also moxibustion, and infrared radiation, laser, electricity. So they are based on the standard nomenclature published by the World Health Organization. There are about over 400 points, and distribution is somewhat different from the conventional nerve distribution or the distribution of the blood vessels. And some studies show that acupuncture points tend to have high electric conductance and high density of gap junctions. So regarding the clinical trials on acupuncture, I guess you all know about the effect side. If you measure the effectiveness of a clinical trial, you can calculate the effect size. So if it's between 0.2 to 0.5, it's considered small, and between 0.5 to 0.8, considered moderate, and more than 0.8, considered a large effect size. So if you look at the acupuncture Cochrane reviews, and there's interesting trend. So for for treating acute back pain, the effect size can be pretty large. It's 3.5. While dysmenorrhea is 0.7, moderate. Breech presentation 2, that's also fairly large. So what you see is that for relatively young and healthy people who just have one problem, the acupuncture tends to be fairly effective. On the other hand, if you look at the elderly, frail elderly, it tends to be the effects tend to be on the low side. Like osteoarthritis is 0.2, that's a small, and for the treatment of dysphagia after stroke, it's also 0.4, so also on the low side. So now I'll later on mention about the explanation for those effects from the biological model of acupuncture. So regarding the basic science, so we know the gold standard of science is that a valid scientific theory should have predictions which have multiple independent confirmations. So here's the first question regarding the acupuncture, the basic scientific research on acupuncture. So which of the following is true? So acupuncture research has led to a scientific theory or model which has multiple independently confirmed predictions and corollaries in acupuncture research. Choice B is that it has multiple independently confirmed predictions and corollaries in conventional biomedical research. So if a theory can achieve both, that's really the ideal of integrative medicine. And then it enables a college graduate who's good at math and conventional anatomy to figure out the distribution of a large number of acupuncture points and some meridians without learning or before learning the traditional text or chart of the acupuncture. Choice D is that it can correctly predict and guide clinical acupuncture. And choice E is that it suggests a unified biological basis of meridian system and chakra system. So if a theory can achieve all those, that would be really the ideal of integrative medicine then. So the answer is actually all of those are true. And later on I'm going to, the rest of the lecture I'm going to show you all the evidence supporting those claims. So the challenges in developing the biological model for acupuncture are several. One is that the distribution of acupuncture points, as I mentioned earlier. So the acupuncture points are not often different. Its distribution often different from the distribution of the nerves or blood vessels or lymphatics, and even connective tissue plane. And one of the most outstanding model here is the example is auricular acupuncture point. So our external ear has the highest density of acupuncture points. It's about 10% of the whole of all the acupuncture points concentrate on the external ear. So that doesn't make much sense in neuroanatomy or in connective tissue planes. And also in terms of the physiological function, the external ear is fairly unimportant in conventional physiology. All its known function is the collection of sound waves. And another challenge is the long-lasting effects of acupuncture. So numerous randomized controlled trials have shown that the relief or the effect of acupuncture can last many months or even years after the cessation of the acupuncture treatment, and that's much longer than the half-life of endorphin. If you stop taking morphine, the pain relief will be over within several hours. Or even if the long-lasting narcotic, it will be over in a few days. So that doesn't make much sense in neurobiology. And the other, for other conditions, those long-lasting effects have shown in the treatment of shoulder pain, back pain, primary dysmenorrhea, spinal cord injuries, urinary urgency, and osteoarthritis. And so this is very different from the conventional neurostimulation therapy, like sacral nerve stimulation, for those treatments, usually the effect will kind of dissipate over several days after you stop the treatment. The third challenge is a non-specific subtle activation of the acupuncture point. As I mentioned earlier, you can achieve the therapeutic effect by a variety of stimuli. And one of the most intriguing part is the use of the non-thermal, weak, low-intensity laser irradiation at the acupuncture point. It's known that when you use really low intensity, like below 5 milliwatts, those laser doesn't even activate the peripheral nerve, and it doesn't cause collagen fiber reorganization. But it does cause some like intracellular calcium oscillation, and it is known to cause systemic effects as well. And this is also strange from the biology, from the conventional biology, because those effect doesn't have any apparent survival or evolutionary benefit. So the question is, why do acupuncture points exist? What is the origin and the intrinsic function of acupuncture points? So now comes one of the central problems in acupuncture, basic acupuncture research. So what is the biological possibility of acupuncture? So which known structure in biology that can actually show this kind of sensitivity or this kind of long-lasting systemic response to the subtle stimuli that I mentioned earlier? Is it peripheral nerve or lymphatics or organizer, which is a small group of cells which control the growth of a much larger region? Or is it connective tissue or blood vessel? So the most likely answer is the organizer, and that has been known for many decades. As early as 1940s, it's been known that a stimulation, very much like acupuncture, a tiny mechanical injury from a needle can cause induction of those organizers, can induce a whole bunch of growth control effect, and even induce the growth of a new body part. It's even more remarkable than acupuncture. But this is mostly in the early embryos. So the hypothesis is that the acupuncture point may originate.
Just a quick question, just to maybe make it clear. The organizer cells that you're talking about here in embryology are different from the stem cells when the embryo kind of evolves or grows?
It's consists
nothing?
of stem cells and also probably other cells as well. So
yeah.
the entire composition of the organizer I haven't seen a detailed study, but we know that there's a higher concentration of stem cells.
Of stem cells in this group.
Yes.
So,
and organizers, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So here is the a picture of a classic organizer called blastopore, or the base of the blastopore that was first studied by a biologist called Hans Spemann, and he actually got the first Nobel Prize in developmental biology in 1935 for this. So what he did is that he transplanted the tip, where the red arrow is, from one embryo of amphibian embryo to another, and that part, the blastopore tip can induce another embryo from the well, it's almost like a joint twin. So if you transplant that in another embryo, it induces a whole almost one, it's like a joint twin kind of abnormality, a new part of the embryo from after the transplant. And And it was predicted from the acupuncture model that you should find high density of electric current and high intensity of the electric field at the tip of the blast hole. And that was first predicted in the late 80s and was confirmed by developmental biologists in the mid-90s. So this is the first time that a biological model of acupuncture can actually predict the research findings in conventional biology. And similarly, in acupuncture points, when we use instrument to measure the electromagnetic field around the acupuncture point, you can also find higher intensity of those field strengths around the
Could you just give a basic explanation again for what is an organizer?
Yes. It's basically a small group of cells. It tends to generate a gradient of growth factors, like retinoic acid or hedgehog, those kind of, so those kind of growth factors, and those gradients will determine the fate of the surrounding tissue. And they tend to be very sensitive to minor disruption. So because actually mathematically it's supposed to, because when you have a gradient at one point that has the highest intensity or the lowest intensity, and then you have this gradual so that particular point it's become the so-called singular point, and it's known mathematically whenever you have a singular point, that point is almost always sensitive to minor perturbations. And that has been actually pointed out by Maxwell like in the mid 19th century. So here is a figure from the basically it's a measurement of the electromagnetic field on human hand. And when you use very sensitive magnetometer like the one you use in MEG, it can detect very weak electromagnetic field, and you can see that around the acupuncture point there tends to be a higher intensity than the surrounding area, and that is somewhat different from the blood vessel distribution and the nerve distribution on the hand. So once we have this connection, so it is very apparent that there's a lot of similarities between the acupuncture points and organizers. So both have high electric conductance and high electric current density and high metabolic activity, as you can measure by the CO2 emission from those surrounding tissues, and high density of gap junctions. We know the gap junction is a channel in connecting adjacent cells, and that is known whenever we have a high density of gap junction, there's a higher electric conductivity around that region as well. And both can be activated by non-specific stimuli, which can cause long-lasting systemic effects. And this also readily explains the distribution of a lot of acupuncture points. So we know organizers tend to have the extreme point of surface curvature on the body, like all the fingertips. You should expect basically organizers to be at the fingertips or the concave or saddle points, between the fingers, the armpit, tip of the nose. Those should be the expected location of organs, and those are exactly the points of acupuncture points as well. So just by examining your body, you can instantly recognize the distribution of dozens of acupuncture without learning any traditional text at all, and you would know the distribution of acupuncture points. And also like lateral and medial malleolus, those and also in the concave points between the Achilles tendon and the malleolus. So those are all acupuncture points and obvious location, also obvious location of the organizers. And this also really explains why the external ear has highest density of acupuncture points. Because we know the external ear has very convoluted morphology, right? Whenever you have a convoluted morphology, you would expect a very high density of the concave points and the saddle points, and also the convex points, and thus the expected points of organizers, and those are also why there's such a high density of acupuncture points on the external ears too. And interestingly, we know the external ear morphology has a connection with a lot of congenital malformation syndromes, and it's actually taught in pediatric textbook that if a clinician notices a malformation of the external ear of a newborn baby, that clinician should start searching for organ malformation in that baby, because that is a very high correlation. Like in Porter syndrome, Edwards syndrome, Noonan syndrome, Fragile X. So the model suggests that there's an interconnection between different body parts, or between the surface of the body and the internal organs. And through this connection, by stimulating the organizers on the body surface, you can affect the functions of the internal organs and the whole system as well. The singular points, as I mentioned earlier, the organizer has local maximum electric conductance and also maximum electric current density. So it is, by that phenomenon, so it fits the definition of a singular point in the bioelectric field. It is also a singular point in the local morphogen meridian. So morphogen is a signaling molecule, as I mentioned earlier, like retinoic acid, hedgehog, and ringless, etc. And because the mathematical nature of this discontinuity, so those points tend to be sensitive to subtle perturbations. So here the connection suggests that acupuncture points have an important role in growth control, because if they originate from the organizers, and if you look at the physiology, the conventional physiology, you should realize that there's one important function that's missing from the physiological system. That is the growth control function. We have the immune system, we have the circulatory system, but we know growth control must be very important in the body, right? And it's not just growth factors, the growth hormone, those humoral factors, but there must be a complex network governing the signal transduction of the growth control, so that you can maintain a complex shape. Otherwise, if it's all important is just the humoral factors, and then you can only grow into like a sphere kind of a shape, but you can control the the radius or the bigger or smaller of that shape, but you cannot maintain a complex shape. So that complex network has not been well studied so far. But we know this must be the foundation of all the other all the other physiological systems, regardless it's nervous system or circulatory system. They all start with one fertilized egg, and through this growth control mechanism, it develops into that complex organism. So the growth control system can be considered the foundation or the mother of all the other physiological systems. And we know also the growth control signal transduction is embedded in a lot of the physiological control mechanisms, like the regulation of numerous physiological processes is through growth control mechanisms such as hypertrophy, hyperplasia, or atrophy, or apoptosis. And we know a lot of genes involved in the growth control are also involved in the physiological control as well. There's a lot of overlap. So one of the obvious corollary from this acupuncture organizer model is that acupuncture should have extensive growth control effect, and that indeed have been confirmed. So acupuncture has been shown to regulate the secretion of a variety of growth factors, such as vascular endothelial growth factor, basic fibroblast growth factor, nerve growth factor, etc., and TGF-beta1, interleukin-6, and also expression of various growth control genes such as C4, BCL2, FAS, and some of the genes related to the apoptosis, like FASL, BAX. The research has shown that acupuncture can regulate apoptosis, regeneration, differentiation, and cell proliferation of various tissues. And the classic neurohumoral factors induced by acupuncture, such as endorphins, adenosine, and serotonin, those also have been shown to have growth control effects. For example, endorphin has been shown to stimulate epithelial cell growth, and the serotonin has been shown to stimulate endothelial growth and endothelial cell growth, and also can affect the platelet as well. Some of the predictions for this model also have been confirmed in conventional medical research. For example, the singularity and separatrix in morphogenesis have been confirmed by multiple research groups. The high electric inductance and high density of gap junctions and the organizers, such as the plastic and the zone of polarizing activity, those has also, those predictions have been confirmed as well. The zone of polarizing activity is organizer. It's mostly studied in like chicken. It's in the location like around the armpit. That's around the location, and that's So that's a well-studied model in developmental biology, and also a high density of gap junctions. Distribute as separatrices. So separatrices is another concept in the differential geometry or differential equation. So that is basically a linear singularity. So typically, it's similar to the concept of boundary. So basically, across a separatrix, you expect a sudden change of the nature of the different domains. think and also there's been increasing evidence that morphogens and organizers continue to exist and function in adult after embryogenesis. For example, the serotonin, we know it's a neurotransmitter, but in fact in the embryo it's a morphogen. It's important in determining the left-right axis. And the retinoic acid as well, that is known to function both in adult and also as a morphogen in embryo. The TGF-beta, the TGF factors has been also been shown to function in both adult and embryogenesis. The predictions, other predictions confirmed by acupuncture research include, in randomized control trials, acupuncture has shown efficacy in treating growth control related disorders, like the inflammatory bowel disease and spinal cord injuries and low sperm quality. I guess you studied before that the acupuncture points tend to distribute along the connective tissue plane. That's also consistent with the concept of boundary and separatrix. That between different body domains, you expect that's where the connective tissue is, and that should have a higher concentration of the higher density distribution of the acupuncture points. And based on the singularity nature of this acupuncture point, you expect a kind of simulated annealing effect of the acupuncture. So simulated annealing is a method used in numerical optimization. That is, it optimizes optimize a program or optimize a certain function by code based disruption, certain you use a certain kind of disruption of the system, and by using using this disruption, you kind of fine tune and optimize the system in the process. And it's a similar kind of a treatment in conventional biology. The closest would be electric convulsion therapy in psychiatry. That is basically if you have a patient in really bad depression and there's other treatment and not very effective or too dangerous, then by this kind of electric convulsion therapy, you basically disrupt all the neural circuits in the brain, and somehow they kind of resettle, reorganize afterwards, and hopefully you can reach a better state afterwards. So acupuncture is somewhat like that kind of therapy, but because the stimulation is at a singular point, so you don't need really strong stimulation like that of the electrical convulsion therapy, but you can just exert fairly subtle, weak stimulation, but you can still achieve a fairly strong effect. So, based on the organizer model, so the goal of the treatment is to relieve certain disorder which correspond to reaching a certain local optimum in simulated annealing. And the perturbation, such as acupuncture, can lead to the local or global self-organizing optimization of a system by shifting the system from a suboptimal state to a healthier state. And this effect is limited and related to the person's general health and the age in the case of acupuncture. So because the acupuncture point is related to the growth control capacity of the individual, right? So as a person gets older, the effect of acupuncture tends to get weaker. And also, if you use a lot of acupuncture points at the same time, you can tend to cause a wider distribution of the self-organizing capacity. So this would work okay if the person is relatively healthy and there's only one or two things going wrong. Basically, in that case, the local optimum is what the intended, the intended goal of the treatment would be the same as the so-called local optimum. I mean the global optimum. But if the patient has multiple problems, and if you use a lot of acupuncture points, then you are more likely to cause an unintended effect. That is, you're more likely to miss the goal, basically. As you see from the table I mentioned earlier, that as you use, just one acupuncture point, for the top 3 Cochrane reviews, and the effect size can be quite large or moderate in the case of dysmenorrhea. But when you use a lot of acupuncture points, and the patient tends to be old and frail, then you tend to get fairly low effect size. So here is a diagram illustrating the effect of acupuncture treatment. So if you have, as I mentioned, if the patient is relatively healthy and there's only one problem going in the system, then your different stimulation can essentially cause the same effect. It all goes to the global optimum, which is the same. It's really the same as the intended goal of the treatment. But when you have multiple things going wrong, then the intended goal may be different from the global optimum, and then the treatment may often miss the goal as a result. And that's also the reason why the patients with multiple comorbidities and acupuncture tend to be less effective. So compared to the conventional treatment, so acupuncture has the advantage that is because of the lower side effect profile. Because it stimulates the self-organizing capacity of the patient. So it's not a direct inhibition of a certain or stimulation of a certain signal transduction pathway. So the side effects tend to be lower, but the specificity is also low. It's not, say, if in conventional medicine, so if you take a beta blocker, it will always block. You always slow down the heart rate. Or if you give ACE inhibitor, it will always lower the blood pressure and increase the potassium of that. But in acupuncture, it often can cause the so-called bidirectional effect. So if you stimulate the PCE6, which is the point on the wrist, that's being used to treat nausea and vomiting, but it's also being used to treat like tachycardia and bradycardia. So by stimulation at that point, it will slow down the heartbeat in patients who has tachycardia, but will speed up the heartbeat in patients who has bradycardia. And another example is stomach 36. It will slow down the bowel movement in patients who have diarrhea, but will speed up the bowel movement in patients who have constipation. So it basically improves the self-regulatory capacity of the patient. And as I mentioned earlier, so from the model it predicts that the efficacy of acupuncture should be negatively correlated with disease severity and the patient's age, and that indeed has been confirmed by multiple research groups. And acupuncture is most likely to show positive effect as early treatment in patients with few comorbidities and relatively good general health. And also if you have efficient use of acupuncture points, that if you use too many points, it may not be a good thing. As I mentioned, for treatment of migraine, headache, acute dental pain, labor, nausea, vomiting, those tend to be in patients, be done in patients who are relatively healthy. But in contrast, the trials using multiple acupuncture points in frail elderly tend to be mixed. So the implication on clinical acupuncture is that increasing the number of acupuncture points used in treatment tends to decrease the specificity of the therapeutic effects. And the advantage of the low side effects is at the expense of specificity. And the more comorbidities the patient have, and the less predictable the therapeutic effects will be. And this is basically the summary I mentioned earlier. So for frail patients, the effect of acupuncture tends to be weak and short-lasting due to the weakened self-organizing capacity. So their treatment should be more frequent and with a longer duration. And you may want to consider the modalities such as transcutaneous electrical acupuncture stimulation. Basically, that you use a surface electrode, like the electrode in the EKG, and you can just tension it. You just use those on the acupuncture points, and you can use a battery-powered stimulator, and that can be done by patients themselves, and they can use for hours every day with fairly low cost. There are also like wearable devices in development that you can basically wear those devices, stimulation devices for every day for a long time, and with relatively low cost as well. So another corollary from this model is that the growth control system should not be just limited to the body surface, right? There should be internal part of the growth control system as well. And how do we find those systems? So one clue is that, as we discussed earlier, is that the stem cell distribution should be closely related to the growth control system distribution. And there's one type of stem cell the distribution happens to be well known, and that is a germ cell. And that is the least differentiated cell in our body. So a germ cell can grow into all three germ layers, the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm. And the germ cell distribution can be deduced from the distribution of germ cell tumors. As we know, the primary size of the tumor cell basically correlate with the distribution of the normal tissue of the corresponding cell. And if you map out, say, 1,000 cases of pheochromocytoma, you can basically map out the distribution of the sympathetic nerve system. Similarly, if you map out the distribution of all the reported cases of the primary germ cell tumor, it shows an interesting pattern. distribute mostly midline of the body and concentrate at 7 regions from pineal gland, base of the skull, thyroid, mediastinum, retroperitoneal region, gornals, and sacrococcygeal region. And that have an interesting similarity with another well-known system in the complementary medicine, that is the chakra system. So this model suggests that there may be a unified biological basis of the chakra system and the meridian system. So in summary, well, many details of the acupuncture and the meridian system await further research. The puzzle of the basic puzzle of the acupuncture appear to have been solved at the fundamental level based on the gold standard of science, and that is at the power of the prediction and the unification of the existing biological model of acupuncture. And good science usually have 2 features. One is the power of prediction. Based on the theory, you can predict what kind of manipulation will have what kind of effect. And then also it unifies the pair that used to be separate in a different field that can be a different phenomenon that can be unified under the new theory. And the organizer model of acupuncture that I discussed earlier has multiple independently confirmed predictions and corollaries in both acupuncture research and conventional biomedical research. And it enables a college student or even a high school student who takes some AP courses can figure out basically a large number of acupuncture points without even learning the traditional acupuncture text. It can predict and guide clinical acupuncture, and also it suggests a unified biological basis of the meridian system and the chakra system. So in this line of research, there have been contribution of many people, including mathematician like Professor Mr. Lynn Gibbons, and anesthesiologist Professor Gauliano, physiologist Dr. Cao, and developmental biologist Professor Levine in Tufts, Dr. Lee in MGH Harvard, Dr. McCosey, Dr. Nazer from she's an expert in laser acupuncture in Boston, also a professor in Boston University. Dr. Lowe, mathematician Dr. Scher, and this is many people have contributed. So developmental biologist Professor Mustelli, and Dr. Saeed and Ms. Yung from Stanford. Thank you for the attention. Any questions?
Thank you.
What role does structured water or coherent water have in the conductance in the meridians at this point?
I'm not very familiar. I mean, I'm not very familiar.
Yeah,
So
talk to you about it.
yeah, so I'm not very familiar with in that line of research. I know there's some studies suggest that water channel is likely involved in the maybe involved in the meridian system. That has been proposed before. Regarding how far that line of research has been,
Well, here's 2 things to suggest is that you can create a structured water or coherent water environment which has high conductance, through charged surfaces. And so, for example, if the interfaces, as you're saying, between muscles and connective tissue can create that kind of channel, you could actually have quite a powerful conductance. And it also is unified so that you would have if it has an electromagnetic field, it would be all over.
Yeah.
It would be at
Yeah,
one
that
time,
makes sense. Sure.
everywhere. So.
Go ahead.
Because the acupoints can be stimulated in a variety of ways, things like and the acupressure would have similar efficacy or effectiveness.
Acupressure can be fairly effective. Yeah, it's. I think if you look at clinical trials, it tend to be a little less effective than needle electroacupuncture. So the most effective modality tends to be electroacupuncture. When you have the head-to-head trials, electroacupuncture almost always win, and compared to the just a simple needle acupuncture. And it almost never loses. At most, it has the same efficacy. And the acupressure tends to be a little less effective, yeah, than the needle acupuncture.
We learned in this program that in China, people use acupuncture with anesthesia, and oftentimes you use less anesthesias, and you talk about the self-generating in this lecture. So I was wondering what kind of mechanism do you think is happening there that causes?
I think that's been shown we know that endorphin, that's like the first major breakthrough right, in acupuncture research, that endorphin is involved if you use naloxone, it can block the effect of acupuncture. I think the adenosine is fairly established as well. So if you have like mutant mass, I think, with a defective adenosine receptor, somehow you can also the acupuncture stuff to be effective. I think serotonin is involved to some degree as well. Dynorphin, so that's so that has been very well studied.
I have a question. So I'm just going to kind of summarize one of the main points that I got. So you're saying that like the blast support has this current, this electrical conductivity that happens, and that conductivity stays with us throughout life, and that we're tapping into that conductivity when we're doing acupuncture. Are you making the correlation that that conductivity is the meridian system and the chi flow within it? Is that the presumption?
Well, the chi is hard to define. So, but we do know the electricity, in terms of electrical conductivity, that is shared by both organizers and the acupuncture point. And that's, because of the distribution feature, the curvature feature of the acupuncture points and the organizer are so similar, and also the electrical conductances. Yeah, as we mentioned earlier. So this, it appears basically the organizer continue to exist after the embryogenesis, but kind of gradually fade away through aging process. So it gets weaker and weaker, and so the acupuncture efficacy also gets weaker and weaker.
That's fascinating.
Could you explain a little bit more in what sense a blast or an organizer is considered to be a singularity?
Yeah, so organizer, you basically have this gradient field of the morphogen, right? You have either say the hedgehog or the retinoic acid signaling molecule. Typically, like distributor has the highest concentration, say at the center of the organizer, while the gradually kind of have a gradient field around it. But in maintaining that those gradient, so that you can imagine that the center of the if you have the same disruption, same damage, say, stick a needle at the surrounding tissue, you can imagine that there's very little effect on the gradient field. But if you stick a needle at the center of that gradient field, that's where the highest concentration, there must be something special around that center, right, that can maintain this gradient field. And you can imagine that must be prone to the same, to the subtle perturbation compared with the other parts of the gradient field. And so what has been shown in developmental biology is that with a different ingredient, with a different concentration of the so-called morphine molecule, the cell will react differently, will develop into a different type of cells. And that's how you get into the differentiation and the morphogenesis in the developmental biology.
I'm wondering if the herbal medicine can also apply to this model, because we know in Chinese medicine, some certain herbs can also work out the different parts, and also it can regulate the relationship between the different parts.
In some degree, it can, so certain herbs that is known to have some bidirectional field, like there's a herb called, I don't know the Latin name, but there's the herb in Chinese medicine called sanqi. It can both cause can promote blood clotting in people who are bleeding, but also but at the same time it decreases blood clot risk in normal people, in they used to treat stroke patients. So there's a certain degree of that, but it is known even among the practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, the acupuncture has much lower side effect profile, even compared to herbal medicine. So most of the time, herbal medicine is known to be far more risky than acupuncture. Because acupuncture almost purely rely on this self-organizing capacity of the patient to kind of modulate the disease process. While the herbal medicine, you can still have certain direct inhibition or activation of certain signal transduction pathways, and it tends to have higher side effect profile.
All right. If that's everyone, no one has any more questions, I think that concludes the session. So, thank you, Dr.